It is a Thursday. You're hearing the election music. You're supposed to hear it on a Tuesday. I don't know why they're doing this, but in New Jersey tonight on a Thursday, they're doing a special election to Congress, New Jersey's 11th congressional district, and we are here live now, just 15 minutes before poll closing time, to bring you all the results as they come in this race. A reminder, this is to replace Mikie Sherrill. She was a member of Congress starting in 2018. She got elected governor of New Jersey last November. This was the district she represented. Where are we here? New Jersey, as we say. We're outside New York City. We're in the suburbs. We're in the bedroom communities of, this is Essex County. This is part of Essex County, western Essex County right here. This is Morris County next door. And also, making a cameo appearance, a little slice of Passaic County, Wayne, New Jersey there in Passaic County. About half the vote we think tonight will come from Morris, about 40% from Essex, probably about 10% from Passaic County right there. One other note here, I'm standing, I love doing this. This is the corner of the studio where we got the giant wall here. I like to stay here as long as I can because it's warm. It's a little cool in the studio, but it's warm by this wall. But one other note, you're listening to the election music. I tried today. I had this great idea. I said I wanted to come on the air at 7:45 and play Sopranos music. Now, not just because we're in New Jersey. Everyone can do that. But why? Because right here in Essex County is the town of North Caldwell, New Jersey. That is where Tony and Carmela lived. So we are actually in Tony and Carmela's congressional district tonight. If Tony hadn't been killed in the diner, pretty sure that's what happened. Who do you think he'd be voting for tonight? Who would Carmela be voting for tonight? Who would all the characters from The Sopranos be voting for tonight? We got a chat going on YouTube. If you're like me, if you love the show, I'd love to hear what they're probably mostly Republicans, but is there maybe a Mejia voter or two in there? Anyway, let me know what you think. I'm going to make my way over now to the nerve center of the studio. We're going to start with my co-pilot for the night. You know him. He's my producer. He's the numbers cruncher. And most importantly tonight, he's a New Jersey native, Adam Nabeau. You ready to go?
Absolutely. New Jersey native. And I know you spent some formative years in New Jersey. I don't know if the people on YouTube know this, but your Twitter profile or your X profile, your photo is a caricature of you when you wrote an essay about New Jersey diners. About
my love of New Jersey diners. The very first New Jersey diner I went to, well, the first one was the TikTok in Clifton. Okay, the second one, though, was the Nutley Diner in Nutley's in this district. So there we go.
There you go.
Send your favorite New Jersey diners to the chat,
That's true.
Too.
I'll look for those.
Adam is going to be looking at all those results as they come in, flagging me on important stuff, answering important questions. And now we are back at the main set, at the main board. And again, this should start lighting up pretty quickly at 8 o'clock. Now, let's just set the scene here in terms of what we expect. I want to be honest with you. You're tuning into this. I think you probably know this, but the expectations tonight, certainly, the elections are full of surprises, so we'll see if the expectations are upended at all. It's always the fun in that suspense. But the expectations certainly are this is going to be a big night for the Democrats. Ana Lilia Mejia won the Democratic primary here back in February in an upset. Now, this was a race that attracted national attention. She was endorsed by Bernie Sanders, by AOC. She was running against several other candidates, including former Congressman Tom Malinowski. You remember this story, Malinowski? He was targeted by AIPAC-aligned groups. They went after him. They succeeded in taking him down. But by doing that, it actually opened the door for Mejia to win that primary. Again, with only 30% of the vote. She's running tonight against a man who won the Republican nomination unopposed, Joe Hathaway. He's a council member, a former mayor from Randolph, New Jersey, out there sort of in the western part of Morris County. This district voted in 2024 for Kamala Harris by 9 points. Now, where this gets interesting is you look at somebody with Mejia's politics, pretty far left politics here, also very critical of Israel, and there's a significant Jewish population in this district too. I think you'd look at this on a paper and say in the neutral political environment, Democrats might be pushing their luck here in a district like this, sort of a suburban district that not long ago, by the way, probably a decade or so ago, this was a Republican district. This was Republican territory. Rodney Frelinghuysen represented this district in Congress for a long time. But he'd voted for Harris by 9 points in 2024. And I think more importantly, this is the only time tonight I'm going to leave the results map. It's just to set the stage for this and to show you all of the special elections to Congress that we've had so far since Donald Trump came back to office. And the pattern is clear and it's unmistakable. Democrats in every special election heading into tonight have done double digits better than they did in the presidential election, right? So like 2025, April, about a year ago, Florida's first district, Trump had won the district by 37 points. They had a special election for Congress. It's a Republican district. The Republicans won it, but only by 15. So that was like a 22-point shift in the Democrats' favor. And you could see it was 16-point shift here from 30 to 14. Here's the Democratic district. Harris had won it by 34. Special election for Congress last September. Democrats won it by 50. That's a 16-point shift. We got 18 here. Remember, we did Tennessee Live. Remember, in December, I should say. That was the smallest shift, but it was still 13 points. Just last week we were here. We saw that 14th district in Northwest Georgia go from Trump by 37. The Republicans held it in the special, but only by 12, 25-point shift. So we have seen shifts on the low end of 13 points and on the high end, 25 points in the special elections heading into tonight. So I showed you that Kamala Harris won this district by 9. If you're anywhere in this range tonight of Democratic improvement, from 2024, then this would be somewhere between 22 points, right, and 34 points for Mejia, the Democrat. So again, that's just based on how these special elections have been going. We've just seen that the Democratic base is so jazzed to turn out and participate in these special elections. It's driving these giant overperformances that you're seeing. Let me get back to the results map here. Again, we got about 8 minutes till the polls close right here. So again, the expectation just based on that is that this would be a big night for Democrats, a big night for Mejia. And it would call into question this, by the way, the shortest one of these we've done. We say we go on when the polls close, we stay on until we get a call. The shortest one we had was last week, Wisconsin Supreme Court. It was 30 minutes from poll close to the call. Will this be faster tonight? I mean, if this is the kind of night Democrats, I think, are expecting, it will be. So that's one benchmark for you. The other, we got a hit scheduled for News Now at 8:37, right? If you've been watching these, you know how they go. We got our News Now broadcast up and running. They will come to me for an update when there's an election in progress. You'll get to watch the update, the interaction with the anchor, scheduled for 8:37. Maybe that's sort of an over-under benchmark. Will this race be called by 8:37? If it is, I think it's going the way the Democrats expected. If it's not, then I think it's going a little better for Republicans than I think conventional wisdom. And it would raise the question of, is there some backlash to Mejia, being too far to the left in this district? One particular place we're going to be watching when the results come in tonight, we will give you kind of municipal results as they come in. There's only 3 counties. So, a lot of individual towns can tell you more of sort of the twist and turn story. Livingston, New Jersey is a big town in this district with a very large Jewish population. In the primary, Mejia did pretty bad there. She only got 15% of the vote. One of her worst towns in the district in the primary. It's a Democratic town overall. Kamala Harris won it by about 20 points in 2024. Is Mejia at that number? Is she short of that number? So that's the kind of place we're looking to see if there's a specific reaction to Mejia, just given her politics again, that in the past you might have said would be a poor fit for this district. We will see if that's true at all tonight. Again, I'm looking at the countdown clock, 6 minutes to poll closing time. So the other thing to keep in mind, the way this works in New Jersey, they got early voting, vote by mail, and they release those numbers first. So we expect, if past is prologue, in the first few minutes after the polls close, the way it works in the primary, Essex County, I think at 8:04, spit out a pretty big chunk of votes at 8:04 from different towns, different municipalities. It was the early vote. Right now, we know the Democrats, we could see from the turnout figures by party, the Democrats have really kind of been swamping the Republicans in the early vote. This is nothing new. We've seen it certainly in the stats for this race. We see it all the time in these races now. So expect that those first numbers, when we start giving you those numbers, they're going to be very extra good numbers for Mejia. The question, as always, is once you kind of get all that early vote counted up from across the district and you start getting the vote that was cast in person today, the same day vote, are the Republicans making big strides in the same day to offset that Democratic advantage in the early vote? Those are sort of 2 things that are going to be going on here. The early vote's going to come out first in these towns. Then we're going to get the same day. And when we start comparing in these individual towns, the early and the same day, we'll have clarity on it. So, I mean, again, it's 3 counties here. This is Morris County. This is Essex County right here. I could click on it and show you. This is Morris County right here. And again, overall, Morris County, look, in the 2024 presidential election, Trump actually carried this county, by a point. That was actually an improvement for him. Biden had won it by 6 in 2020. Trump carried Morris County by a point in 2024. So this is the more kind of Republican-friendly part here. Although actually Passaic County, too, this made headlines on election night in 2024. Trump had carried Passaic in 2020. He carried by this portion, I should say, by 4 points in 2020. And look at this. Trump really rolled up the score in Passaic in 2024. The bad news for Hathaway and the Republicans, this is the smallest part of the district. Only about 1 in 10 votes tonight probably going to come out of Passaic County, maybe even a little bit less than that. And then you got Essex County, and this is where the Democrats get their big, giant margins from. Harris won here by 30 points in 2024. And there are some individual towns, again, when these polls close. We can't, unfortunately, zoom in and start showing you the individual towns here, the little puzzle pieces. But Adam, my producer right here, is going to be telling me as we get the results sort of town by town. Some of these are pretty big. Think of it like, often we're doing statewide elections. It's the counties. We're giving you the big counties in a state. We're going to be giving you the big towns in counties tonight. We're one level deeper into this. But again, when he does, some of these Essex County towns here, you're going to see numbers for Mejia that are just, Maplewood, New Jersey, for instance. I think that was the biggest margin for Kamala Harris. All the towns in this district, Maplewood, New Jersey, which is right down sort of in the southern part right here. Kamala Harris won that 90-9 in 2024. Right next door in South Orange, I think Kamala Harris won by 79 points. That was 81 and 79. I think those were the 2 biggest. This is those 2 towns right there. I'll probably mention them a few times tonight. They're pretty decent-sized towns here, and they just typify, they embody that Democratic Party base that we talked about sort of nationally, that's really activated politically, really, I think, moved to the left politically, college-educated, higher income, in metropolitan areas. Those towns, you have Montclair, which is up here. It's another one. You got a few, good-sized towns in this district that really fit that profile, where, again, I think you're going to see not just massive numbers for Mejia tonight, but I think part of the story, too, is going to be turnout, because we're saying the Democratic base, that portion of the Democratic base has been so enthusiastic about turning out in these special elections. There are some towns in this district that really typify that. An interesting place, I think, on the Morris County side to look, you see Parsippany right here. Parsippany, the biggest individual, basically, town in this municipality, in this district. It's basically in the presidential election, it was a swing. It was a swing municipality. If you're Hathaway, you need it to be something like that tonight. If it goes like it's been going in these other special elections, it'll be a pretty comfortable Mejia win there. But Parsippany is a big one. We call that one out. Randolph, Hathaway's own town, is going to be interesting here. Again, he's an elected official there, local elected official. It actually went for Kamala Harris by 7 points in 2024. So, again, Hathaway wants to be, probably it's his hometown. He wants to be winning it. But so, again, that's sort of the lay of the land. I'll reset this now district-wide here. So you got 3 component counties. As I said, you got North Caldwell. You got Tony and Carmela's hometown, which, by the way, was very competitive in 2024. It was a 2-point win for Donald Trump. And, we got a minute to poll closing. My buddy David Wildstein, New Jersey Globe, who knows more about New Jersey politics than anybody who's ever existed, sent me this. I mentioned the Sopranos. Celebrities, this is, we're close to New York City. A lot of celebrities have roots in this district. He sent a couple fun ones over. You'll hear these towns as they're called over. Montclair in this district. Stephen Colbert lives there. Buzz Aldrin, the astronaut, is from there. Yogi Berra, right? Deja vu all over again. He's from there. Belleville's in this district. Essex County. You got Joe Pesci is from there. What else we got here? Milburn is in here. Essex County. Anne Hathaway is from there. South Orange, I mentioned just a minute ago. Overwhelmingly Democratic town. Zach Braff, Max Weinberg. I'll give you a few more of these as we go. We got the countdown. 5 seconds left. 4. This is like New Year's Eve. Officially now, Polls are closed in New Jersey's 11th congressional district. We await the first results. As I said, just based on, I think, if you were sort of the Vegas odds maker for this thing and you were trying to do the over-under, is it going to be quick? Is this going to be, something that's faster than we had in Wisconsin last week of 30 minutes? So we've probably got a couple minutes. Actually, I cut that off. Maybe I'll give you some more celebrities while we wait for this to light up. But
a lot of folks in the chat have been shooting in their guesses about
give them to me.
Margin for
Yes.
tonight. Faithful Voice predicted a 22-point victory. Cole, Democrats plus 26.
Democrats.
Yes. Confucius, Democrats plus 25. There's some enthusiasm there. We also got some diner shout-outs, which we solicited earlier.
What do we got?
Colonial Diner in East Brunswick, not our district, but nearby. Tops Diner is the best diner in the U.S., says Chris C. Okay,
a couple other Jersey diners if you're out there. I always like the Omega in North Brunswick on Route 1.
I prefer the Spinning Wheel Diner out in West Jersey, out in Hunterdon County.
West Jersey. People don't even agree that there's a Central Jersey, and you're trying to introduce West Jersey into the mix.
There's a rich history that West Jersey exists.
Well, it was originally East Jersey.
That's right.
Was the right? Okay,
that's right.
Yeah. We'll do plenty of Jersey history here, folks. Any Sopranos?
Yes, we got.
What are they telling you?
Okie Cav commented, Tony and Carmela are Trump Republicans. Meadow is a resistance wine mom now. That was their analysis.
That's interesting. When I asked folks about this today, a lot of people said Meadow would be the one who votes for Mejia. But Meadow did an interesting turn on that show. I don't want to miss any results, but before we have them, Meadow did an interesting turn on that show, right? Where she was like she went to NYU Columbia, and she was very, in those early years, I think she was kind of rebelling against her parents and, the kind of progressive history I remember she was studying. She made a turn in that show. Remember there was an episode where, and then she was like, what mafia? The mafia. I think she made a turn sort of to her parents' ways. I don't know that she'd be I think the early seasons Meadow would be that. Later Meadow might not. You know who I think would be voting for Mejia?
Who's that?
Dr. Melfi.
There you go.
I realized, too, The Sopranos went off the air 19 years ago. It's like I'm still stuck in like 2006 where everybody's talking about it still. There's probably a lot of people watching this who are, it'd be like people when I was a kid who were talking about the Dick Van Dyke Show or something. We're just, 8:02, 8:03. So again, 8:04 is when we got the first results back in February. I can give you a few more. I know everybody must. I think these are interesting. What else we got here? Where was I? I gave you Joe Pesci. Oh, now I mentioned Livingston. Livingston, of course, that's where Chris Christie was from originally. Lives in Mendham now, I believe. Tom Kean, the governor in the 1980s, said New Jersey and you perfect together. From Livingston, that's where his son, Tom Kean Jr., the congressman, was raised. To John Spencer, remember him, the actor? Leo McGarry from The West Wing, he's from this district. Snooki, remember Snooki? She's from this district.
All right.
Snooki, excuse me, I'm sorry, Snooki. Snooki's from this district. This is what we do. We don't have returns for you folks. This is, what else can I tell you here, though, about...
Clever Elections is asking if there's any kind of demographic breakdown of the district that could affect the results.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think one of the things two things were interesting. I said I'm interested in places with large Jewish populations. Given Mejia's politics, Livingston comes to mind. This is also where, let me call the spreadsheet up here, because we had one of the largest, one of the largest shifts in a heavily Hispanic area toward Donald Trump in 2024 was in this district. Adam, I don't have the spreadsheet called up here. Can you give us that number?
Where were you looking at here? Sorry. I was looking for
Dover. So Dover, New Jersey, which is like 70% Hispanic. It's small. Dover, New Jersey is out here in Morris County. It is small, but it's one of the things. Remember, in 2024, right? Donald Trump, his biggest or second biggest improvement statewide from 2020 was in New Jersey. He basically did like 10 net points better in New Jersey in 24 than in 20. Lost it by 6 in 24, lost it by 16 in 2020. Big reason for that was places in New Jersey that were overwhelmingly Hispanic, had some massive swings toward Trump. We're talking like 20, 30, 40-point swings. Some of this had started in 2020, but it really accelerated into 2024. One of those communities is in this district. It's Dover, which is in Morris County. Again, it's small population-wise, but it's like 2/3, 3/4 Hispanic. And do you have the result there?
I'm sorry, I am distracted.
Okay.
It hasn't hit our NEAT system yet, but Essex County has started posting the results. So I'm hoping it gets into our system shortly.
Okay, so tell us how this works. Wait a minute, because you see results from Essex.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at the Essex County website from this.
Okay, yeah, they just posted it in our system.
They just posted.
Okay, this is a big chunk here. More than 40% of the vote from Essex County. Remember what you're looking at here. You're looking at early vote. All right, you're looking at as Democratic friendly as it's going to get. It's very, very Democratic friendly. That's basically a 4-to-1 margin for Mejia. In line initially, certainly with what we're expecting and what we were setting up there. But Adam is going to give us, and tell me, Adam, when you're ready, some of the municipality level results that are part of this, because what we can do is we can go through the municipalities and we can compare the numbers we have so far with the 2024 numbers. Remember, the average Democratic improvement in these special elections relative to 2024 has been 18 points. So that's a metric to keep in mind here. And again, the numbers that Adam will give you will come down as the night goes on, because this is the early vote, the most Democratic friendly. It always come down that much, but that becomes the big question. So do we have any municipalities here?
Yeah, so okay. I can give you the places that have the most friendly Mejia votes and kind of go from there.
Or biggest, or anything you want. Give me anything.
Yeah, so Maplewood, see with the highest share of Mejia votes, we're at 93.6 there.
Okay, Maplewood's 93.6. Now again, this is the one that in the presidential election was 90. There wasn't much room for Democrats there. I joked with people today that the suspense in Maplewood would it be 100-0 for the first time? It's 93. Maplewood is as liberal, progressive, college-educated, high income as it gets. So, okay, what else we got?
South Orange.
Right next door, yeah.
We're at 90-10.
90-10, and South Orange was 80, I think it was 90 to... it was 89-10. This is essentially, both look exactly as they did in presidential election. Okay, what else we got?
Montclair, 99.
I'm sorry.
90-9.
When you say 99, you get okay. These okay. Keep going. Yep.
Glen Ridge.
Yep.
89-11.
Yep.
Bloomfield, 88-12.
That's significant. Okay. Bloomfield is 88-12. Bloomfield has a very significant Hispanic population, so a 76-point margin for Mejia in Bloomfield. Again, that's 76. It was 37 for Harris in the presidential election, right? Glen Ridge in the presidential election was 58 for Harris. Right here, you're looking at that's 89-11. You're looking at 78. So again, and we said the average overperformance has been 18 points. So like Glen Ridge, for example, 58 in the presidential election, currently 78. That's a 20-point net improvement for the Democrats. You said Montclair was sitting there at 90-9. It's okay. Montclair was 74 in the presidential election. It's 81 now. But Montclair, Maplewood, South Orange, those are unsustained. You're not going to grow that much if you're a Democrat. We're giving the Mejia, and are there big places that aren't overwhelming Mejia?
Yeah, and one note I do want to note from our analytics team at the decision desk. They say this report is 8 points better than what Sherrill received in the first report in 2024 in Essex County.
Very, very important. That's a great data point. Right. So, again, Mikie Sherrill in 2024, she ended up winning statewide, of course, by 15 points. And this initial report, this apples-to-apples comparison here. Sherrill in the initial vote, same thing, early vote in this portion. Right. This is 8 points better. So, Sherrill did a lot better than Harris, and Mejia now in Essex doing substantially better than Sherrill. Great note. What else?
The two municipalities I see where Hathaway is performing the best.
Yep.
I see Livingston. It's 64-35 for Mejia and Livingston. And North Caldwell, it's 61-38 in North Caldwell.
But still for Mejia.
That's right.
Okay. Let's linger on that for a second. Livingston's interesting. Again, Adam just said in Essex, now Essex County is the bluest part of the district here. It really is sort of the Democratic vote bank in the district. Livingston, New Jersey is 29 points for Mejia, and it's her worst in Essex County right now. Okay. In the presidential election, Kamala Harris won it by 19 points. This is 29 right now for Mejia. So again, we're saying the Democrats have been getting this double-digit improvement from 2024. This would be a 10-point improvement from 2024. Again, it will probably come down some when you get the same-day vote because this is as Democratic-friendly as it gets. But Livingston was the one we highlighted at the start of the night. If you were with us, Livingston was the one we highlighted where we said, if the Democrats are kind of pushing it a little bit here in terms of meeting the voters where they are in a district like this, this might be the town where you see it because it's a strongly Democratic town with a very large Jewish population, and Mejia staunchly critical of Israel. Would there be an effect there? She did not do well in Livingston in the primary. And currently, while she's ahead 64-35, it is her worst in what's come out in Essex County so far. And again, that 64-35, it will come down, with the same day. And I think that's one to, no matter what happens overall in the district tonight, and again, we're only looking at Essex County results right now. I think that one is worth looking at when the night is done, again, because it's a very interesting test here of Mejia and sort of the demographics of this district. North Caldwell, Adam mentioned too here, it's pretty small, but this is Tony and Carmela, okay? But in the presidential election, Trump carried it by 2 points. And right now, in the early vote, Mejia is winning it by 23. So from Trump 2 to Mejia by 23, a shift there to the Democrats of 25 points. Okay, and we just got, and again, that's the early. That will, shift toward the Republicans a bit, but that's a great start for Mejia, certainly. Take a look at Morris County here. So now, Morris County, we got, as you can see, 17% of the vote here. About 13,000 votes just came in. Mejia overall with a 6-point advantage over Hathaway. And again, in the 2024 presidential election, this is what Morris County looked like here. But the question is, where in Morris County is this vote coming from? Can you?
Yeah, it's coming from all over. It is the early vote, some mail vote as well.
Overall.
We can go through, some of the places here. Do you have let's go to Madison.
Yep.
We have 63 for Mejia, 37 for Hathaway.
Okay. Hold on, let me, okay, we got 63-37 in Madison. What else do we have?
Morristown, 76 for Mejia, 24 for Hathaway.
76-24. Okay, yeah. Get some big ones.
Parsippany, 54-45 for Mejia.
Okay. Why don't we use these three for right now? Because those are pretty significant pieces of real estate, especially Parsippany. Parsippany is the biggest in the district, biggest municipality in the district. I mean, I think it's probably going to be like 7% of the vote in the district, something like that. But Parsippany was very competitive in a presidential election. Harris won it by a point, and Mejia is winning it by 9 in the early vote.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so that's, and again, we're saying the early vote is going to be the strong vote for Mejia. It's going to be the strongest vote for Mejia. And it's only a net improvement in a large and sort of politically competitive town where there would be room for Democrats to grow substantially if they're overperforming. Now that's only an 8-point shift right now. Only an 8-point shift with the possibility with that same day vote that 8-point shift comes down a little bit. That's an interesting data point. You said Madison 63-37, right? Mm-hmm. And tell me, I'm sorry, that's Mejia?
Yes.
That's okay. Now, this is the opposite of what I just told you, because you're talking to 23-point here, Harris to 26 here. So that's a massive shift there in the early vote. And then you gave me Morristown sitting at 52, and in the presidential election, Morristown was 31 points for Kamala Harris. 31 points for Kamala Harris. So 31 in the 2024 presidential election was the Democratic margin. 52 is the current Democratic margin. Again, you'd expect with the same day vote that to come down a little bit, but that's more in line with what we saw in Essex County. So, again, overall, you're seeing, certainly just in terms of the bottom line on who's going to win this race, these numbers you're seeing are all currently consistent with what you'd expect from a Democratic win. If there's going to be any kind of a shock here for the Republicans, I think you would see it in the same day vote. But right now, the worst pieces of news for Mejia that we've seen are in Livingston, New Jersey. She's only at 64-35 on the early vote. That's not that's not a number that would threaten, if you just took that number in isolation, you wouldn't say she's in danger of losing district-wide. Parsippany, a big piece of real estate here, she's only improved, in the early vote, she's only improved 8 points over where Kamala Harris finished in 2024. But again, you wouldn't take that number and say she's in any danger of losing. So again, we're currently where our minds are on this, let me put that again, where our minds are is that question of, sort of Democratic margin here. If we get an update here that calls that into question, that's what we're always looking for, something that goes totally against expectations. Obviously, we'll be all over that. But what else do we have municipal-wise? Feel free to go either Essex or Morris, just anything substantial.
Taking a look around here, I think, Denville, it's right at 50-50. I thought that one was interesting.
Yeah.
Hanover, we have Hathaway 61, Mejia 39.
61-39. Okay, now that's interesting too. In Hanover, you just said.
That's right.
Yeah, okay. Give me the number, 61-39?
That's right.
Okay, let's just stop on these two. 61-39, Hathaway. Right, okay, now again, Hathaway is a Morris County guy. Traditionally, sort of in the pre-Trump era, Morris County was really kind of as Republican as it got. A lot of these towns we're sort of hearing here, Adam kind of go through, used to be, big Republican vote-producing towns. And Hanover still was. In 2024, Hanover voted for Donald Trump by 16 points. So, okay, Hanover went Trump by 16 in 2024. And in the early vote in Hanover in this special election, it's more. It's 22 for Hathaway. Okay, and again, usually the early vote is, kind of the bad number for Republicans. So Hathaway improving on Trump in Hanover with, you would think logically, the possibility of improving even more as the same day comes in. That's interesting.
One thing I should flag with I think in contrast with the Essex numbers, the Morris numbers seem to be just early as opposed to early and mail, which is what we got from Essex. Mm-hmm. So that may account for some of the more Republican leaning or less Democratic friendly.
Important note, because when I say the early vote and the mail vote, they're not, the vote by mail is what's just like, almost all Democratic versus the early vote. So it may not be as much room for improvement for Republicans on these numbers or as much room for shift, but Hathaway is running ahead in Hanover of where Trump ran. Again, in Parsippany, we saw Mejia is running ahead of where Harris is by 8 points. Denville, you mentioned, is basically 50-50. Denville basically was close to 50-50 in 2024. Trump won it by 2 points. So, I think, keep going. Do we have more Morris?
Yes. Let's see where else we got here. Morris. There's a bunch of different small towns. I don't want to dwell on them too much. I don't know if I have a new one for you right now.
Okay.
Sorry.
And has anything else come in Essex County? No, it doesn't look that way. So, okay. 44% in Essex County, about a sixth of the vote in Morris. Passaic was the laggard in the primary. Once again, it is tonight. So a quarter of the vote district-wide. And again, I don't want to lose the forest for the trees here. Mejia came in favored to win this race in a district that, Kamala Harris had won by 9 points, that Mikie Sherrill had won by even more in 2025. And again, the numbers that we've seen so far, early mail vote in Essex, early vote, perhaps not mail in Morris, certainly in line with Mejia holding those numbers and building on them overall. So, but we do see in those Morris numbers, a little bit less of that kind of big Democratic surge that we've seen elsewhere. Now, again, let's see if that vote by mail is not part of it. That can be a big boost for Mejia when that comes in here. So from
our decision desk, we do have so we gave you that comparison earlier for Essex County.
Yep.
They note from Morris County in November 2024, the first report was much smaller, but was considerably more favorable for Sherrill than what we are seeing for Mejia in Morris County.
We're comparing the first report.
That's right.
First report.
Yeah.
Okay. So okay, that's interesting. We're seeing, at least preliminarily, a bit more of a division, I think, between these. I mean, we know that Morris and this portion of Essex are very different politically, but I think there was a sense here that if there was going to be, and we said at the beginning, Mejia, only winning that primary with 30% of the vote and being pretty far to the left in her party, and this district not that long ago being a Republican district, being a bedroom community district, sort of, of New York City in a lot of ways. Morris County, not that long ago being a staunchly Republican county, that especially in Morris County, I think if there was going to be sort of, folks hitting the brakes, right, that would be where you'd see it. And that update we just got from Adam, and some of those numbers we're taking you through there again, Hanover, Parsippany in particular, maybe even Denville, at the very least, you're not seeing, I think, that big Democratic momentum that we've seen in other special elections. We're not seeing it early, at least here in these Morris County numbers. That's not to say that we're seeing numbers that put Mejia in danger of losing this race. I think we are seeing in the Essex County portion of the district, and again, Essex County is going to be like 40% of the vote tonight. I think in a lot of those numbers we were looking at, we were seeing sort of that surge level support there for Mejia that we've seen elsewhere. So sort of, in terms of that question of are the Democrats going to have a giant overperformance here in this district from that Kamala Harris by 9, that kind of overperformance that we've seen in other districts, I think it's kind of a mixed bag with the early results right here. The Essex results are suggesting it much more than the Morris results are suggesting it. I think that's what we can say early on there. And I think the Morris results certainly are at least raising the question. We'll see as the results come in, but I think they certainly are raising the question. Folks were wondering, again, if Mejia, just given everything we're saying about her politics, if that was going to cause the Democrats to not get out of this district and out of this special election sort of the same bang they've been getting out of the others. It's a question now that takes on a little bit more meaning, at least certainly in the Morris County portion of the district. Do we have some more municipalities?
Yeah, do we go through Rockaway Township? These are nothing new,
right?
But these are just a continuation of reading through some of the results that have already come in. Rockaway Township is 55 Mejia, 44 Hathaway. Okay,
so Rockaway is 55-45 for Mejia. It's a pretty big size one here, sort of western part of Morris County. And Rockaway Township in 2024 was Trump by 2. So again, you are seeing a shift there toward Mejia. Again, it's not one of these 20, 25 point shifts to her, but you are seeing there a 12-point shift to Mejia. Again, we think early vote, not necessarily mail vote, not same day vote. So, again, that's okay.
If you want to go, stick on that main screen.
Yep.
We just put a call in for Analia.
Okay, so we said this was the question of who was winning. I was getting more intrigued there by the question of margin. The question of who was winning was not really in doubt right there. Mejia has, let me just say this officially, Ana Lilia Mejia the Democratic nominee in New Jersey's 11th congressional district, has been declared by our decision desk the winner of this special election. She defeats Republican Joe Hathaway. She will succeed Mikie Sherrill as the member of Congress from this district. This is a hold for Democrats. This is certainly a not unexpected result, again, given all of the things that we've been talking about tonight. As we were saying here, in these results from Essex County, there was nothing that we saw tonight in the results so far that suggested she was in any danger of losing. And I think because of that, I've spent the last 10 minutes kind of more preoccupied with that question of the shift. So I think we are going to go live over here to News Now. They said they wanted to come to us.
Yeah, any minute here.
Okay, in 2 minutes, the News Now folks are going to come to us. I'm going to give them an update, tell them that the race was settled, tell them how, go through a lot of what we just talked about. When we finish that, stay put. Please stay put, because I have an announcement for you, and I will give it to you. We tell you, we don't want to keep you too late here. The race has been called. I ask you to just stay through the update for News Now, and then give me like 3 minutes of your time, because I got an announcement. I do think you're going to want to hear it, and then we're done. And remember, we said at the start of the night, the record was 30 minutes. The record for the fastest call that we've had for one of these was 30 minutes, and I think this was called at 8:24.
24.
The new record is 24 minutes. So Mejia won this thing from poll close to the call with a quarter of the vote in 24 minutes. Again, the interesting thing, and I'm going to stop talking here in a second here. The interesting thing I do think will be the margin, because again, what we're talking about here in Morris County is suggesting to me at least that maybe those huge shifts we've seen to the Democrats in other districts, it may be a little bit muted, at least in the Morris County portion of the district tonight. But that is a question for later. That'll be filled in. If you're a real junkie, you can follow along online as the results come in. Our results page will stay active. I'll be looking at it. But obviously, again, a comfortable win for Mejia and the Democrats. Here we go.
Build some momentum, gaining another seat in the House. NBC News is projecting that progressive Democrat Ana Lilia Mejia wins the New Jersey special election over Republican Joe Hathaway to fill Governor Mikie Sherrill's seat. This is a big deal, given Republicans' slim majority in the House right now, and those votes are now coming in. Let's get straight over to Steve Kornacki over at the big board to walk us through the results. Great to see you, Steve. What's it looking like?
Yeah, Gotti, look, it's a win, and it's probably a pretty big margin for the Democrats here. Ana Lilia Mejia winning this thing. You see about a quarter of the vote has been counted. Now, more of the vote is coming from the most Democratic-friendly part of the district here. So I do suspect this margin is going to shrink some as the night goes, but not enough to make this thing competitive at all. This is something we've seen in a number of special elections to Congress right now since Donald Trump became president. This is the 7th special election to Congress we've had. The Democrats previously had been, making leaps and bounds gains in these things relative to 2024. Certainly in the most Democratic-friendly part of the district, which is right here, Essex County, sort of the eastern part of the district. I think the early numbers we're seeing are suggesting similar, large, big gains for Democrats here. Lots of Democratic energy. In the western part of the district here, Morris County, these are suburbs, bedroom communities in New York City in a lot of cases. It's a little less clear if Mejia is going to get that sort of surge level, but it's academic in terms of who's going to win the race. This will be a convincing win for Mejia. And this is also, Gotti, I think notably within the Democratic Party a significant story, because Mejia, ran pretty far to the left. She ran very far to the left in this campaign. She was endorsed by AOC. She was endorsed by Bernie Sanders. She was a fierce critic of Israel. She won a fractured Democratic primary with only 30% of the vote. There was some question heading into this general election, of whether there was pushing things a little too far by Democrats in a district like this that not long ago was a Republican district. As I said, there are some parts of the district in these initial results where there might have been a negative reaction to Mejia. I want to see more as the results come in. But overall, this will be a very solid victory in terms of the margin for Mejia. And again, for her wing of the Democratic Party here, winning that primary was kind of an earthquake for them. It was a big upset victory for them. And now they've gotten her through the general election and on her way to Congress.
Steve Kornacki, thank you so much.
All right. That was thanks to Gotti Schwartz and his team there Stay tuned for incorporating us into the show like that. You heard, there's not much more to say than that. Again, like I said, I really am curious on the final margin here. Again, it was 9 points for Kamala Harris in 2024. Based on what we'd seen in previous special elections, if it falls within that range of Democratic overperformance, this would land somewhere between 22 and 37 points. This part of the district, what we were seeing initially, is definitely consistent with that. This part of the district, not so sure with what we've seen initially, but it'll be certainly well above 9 points here. It'll be a solid victory for Mejia. So we will see what the final results bring, but no surprise there in the outcome. Fastest, I won't make this night any longer. I told you to stay put because I had an announcement. So I'm going to do very quickly. The announcement is this. First, why don't we put up our schedule? These are our upcoming Just the Results election night specials. We're going to be doing this. You can see, look at this, less than a week from now. How about this novelty? An election on a Tuesday. It's a referendum in Virginia for redistricting. By the way, the polling looks extremely close there. That race Tuesday could be the opposite of tonight, where this thing was called with a snap of a finger. We could have a long night Tuesday in Virginia. That's going to be a fun one to watch that map fill in. I hope you'll tune in, you'll join in, mark some time for us on Tuesday night. Obviously, I'll be putting the link out there. May 16th, Louisiana. You see some of the others on there. We're going to be doing this through the spring. We're going to be doing these hopefully through the spring and summer. But the announcement that I want to tell you about is what's not on that list, but that will be the next time we update it. May 5th. Tuesday, May 5th, we're going to do something we've never done before with one of these. We're going to do state legislative primaries. Why on earth are we doing it? Because we do the races with the biggest stakes. And in Indiana, you remember the drama last year. Donald Trump, the Republicans nationally, wanted that state, the Republicans in that state, to redraw their congressional lines, part of this mid-decade redistricting push that both parties have now thrown themselves into. There were Republican state senators in Indiana who were against it and who stopped it, and who Trump and pro-Trump forces want to pay a price for that. So those incumbent Republican state senators in Indiana are being challenged now. Primary challenges backed by Trump, backed by a ton of national money on both sides coming into this. Money you'd expect to see in a major congressional race, that level of thing. The national stakes are there. State legislative primaries, national stakes are there. So we will be there, and I hope you'll be there. Indiana State Senate primaries, May 5th. We're doing them. We're doing all the important elections this year. Thank you for tuning in tonight and watching us set a record for the fastest call, and I won't make this go any longer.